Okay guys, now in this video what we're going to do is, since I'm such a big fan of the Whirlpool direct drive, as you know, and I still am today, I thought I'd do like a little comparison video of the Speed Queen and Whirlpool's direct drive, and also the dryer as well, just to see what kind of, pros and cons the machine might have with each other. Nothing serious, both machines, wash clothes very well, but I'm just curious to look at, what some differences the machine could have that may be an advantage for one, but not for the other. We're not going to focus on the control panels, obviously, because we did that on the last video, and that isn't really particular to a manufacturer. It can vary from machine to machine. Okay, so let's get to it. Obviously, when you look at the Speed Queen, and the panels are on, obviously, the big difference you'll notice is inside the tub. The agitator is more of a straight vane, and there's no dual action. So the agitation arc on the direct drive is 90 degrees, and on this machine, it's roughly 180. I mean, I know they say 210 on their website, but if your tub is still indexing, this won't be accurate. But I've watched agitation videos of the Speed Queen many times, and I just don't see the 210 degrees, depending on where the fill arrows are for the fabric softener dispenser. I see them pretty much go 80 degrees back and forth. That's all I'm seeing. One redesign I like, this is just a newer Speed Queen versus older Speed Queen comparison here, just for the time being. I like on these newer Speed Queens, the fill spout has been attached back to the cabinet, and not part of the tub ring like it is on, let's say, my brother's Speed Queen, because when the machine, or rather when the tub tends to shake a little bit during spin, you don't have the water shaking with it. The water stays constantly on the cabinet and sprays right down, so it's attached to the cabinet and not the tub ring, which is one thing I really like for a Speed Queen versus Speed Queen comparison there. So that's the first comparison there. Honestly, whether it's the straight vane or the dual action, both machines have given me great results, so there's really no pro versus con there, just kind of different characteristics, I guess, if you want to call it that. So that's the first thing here. And the one major thing here, as you can see, is the Speed Queen's outer tub, as you know, is porcelain coated steel, and the direct drive's outer tub is plastic. Now, believe it or not, I do have a little bit of a split here, and trust me, guys, 99 times out of 100, I am definitely going to say that metal is better than plastic. The only thing I think about sometimes with these metal outer tubs is there a chance of rusting, even if slight? Now, to be fair, Speed Queen does give you a lifetime warranty on the tubs, provided you don't, do anything bad to them. So I will certainly give them that for credit. And the only difference is, though, is I've seen, you can see some fingerprints on there already. The only thing is, though, I have seen some older Maytags with the metal outer tubs that have a little bit of rusty spots by where the drain hose connects. And now on the direct drive, when you have a plastic outer tub, there is a chance of cracking, but as you know, that 1990 machine is 27 years old and no cracks on it at all. And with plastic, there's no chance whatsoever of rusting. So that is one thing I do kind of think about when I think about those two machines. And but like I said, Speed Queen's outer tub does seem pretty strong. I'll just give a couple of taps. I definitely like how that feels. And like I said, they have a lifetime warranty on it, so if it does go bad and you don't damage it, of course, then you can get a new one at a much cheaper cost, which is very good. And another major thing for the actually, what I should say is before, when you have things under warranty, it's obviously not going to be any cost at all, not for less cost. But anyway, okay, so another big difference here is you can see how I access the internals of the machine. On the Speed Queen, you can see that you just remove a front panel and you have access to most of the internals of the machine. On the direct drive, though, you have to pull the entire cabinet off and move it away. So you have a bigger part to move away, and there will be more labor obviously involved when you try to get that whole cabinet off. Now, of course, on one plus for the direct drive on that is, since the entire cabinet is off, you have access to pretty much everything inside. Now, that can vary on how close the machines are together and where they're located, but for the most part with the direct drive, when you have the entire cabinet off, you have access to everything you need inside here. And on the Speed Queen, you can unbolt the top piece here, kind of like on the older Maytags. You can see that there's a bolt here and a bolt here, and then this whole thing will lift up, kind of like the lid does, and that also gives you access to the top portion of the machine. So again, I mean, not as much to move around, but you know, not as much access and just a little bit more involved to get more access. It depends. Again, it depends on the machine's location and where it is. Sometimes pulling out the whole cabinet might be easier than having to lift this up, okay? It depends on clearances and everything. And the other thing that the direct drive gets a plus for is that since the fill spout is directly connected to the top of the cabinet here, if you open this thing up, not that you would do this, but if you open this thing up and you turn the machine on, the water is going to spray at you instead of into the tub, so you definitely don't want that happening. So there's a small comparison right there, you know, again, much easier to take off a front panel than to take off an entire cabinet. But again, when you take off an entire cabinet, you have more access, and there's also that. And again, you can have more access when you lift this up, but you will still have the two sides here that come into play a little bit when you do this kind of work. And one other comparison I could probably give regarding labor is I have seen videos for both machines where you, let's say you have to replace the transmission on the machine, okay? On the direct drive, you can either do one of two things. You can either take the cabinet off or you can leave the cabinet on, but in both cases you'll have to lay the machine down so that way you have full access to the bottom. The bottom of the direct drive is open, don't forget. You have to lay the machine, you have to remove the agitator, lay the machine down to get to the transmission to replace it. On this particular machine, you can do what I mentioned before, take off the front panel, lift up the top panel, and then this entire inner assembly gets detached somehow. I honestly don't remember what they did in the video, I have to watch it again. But no, you have to take the suspension springs off, and then this entire assembly lifts up and you can turn it upside down. But there is also some internal disassembly you got to do here with the agitator and a couple of bolts. So there is some labor involved on the inside of the tub as well. Whereas the direct drive, you kind of just take off the agitator, then you got to move the machine out and lay it down. But again, on this machine, you got to remove a couple of things inside here, then you can pull this entire thing out. So again, I think on that instance, both machines are kind of equal in that regard, so not too much of a comparison there. So that one kind of evens out with pros and cons. So that one's more of an equal thing for both machines in that regard. Now this instance here is actually a big pro for both machines, okay? And that is the way that the tub is supported and suspended, okay? And there's a keyword there. On both the Whirlpool Direct Drive and the Speed Queen, the tub is supported from the bottom, like it should be. It doesn't hang from the top from rods or something, so it can sink down with weight and do all sorts of weird stuff. No. Supported from the bottom is the right way to go. And the only difference here with the Speed Queen is that the Speed Queen has like a base plate of some sort, and this is really, really strong metal. This isn't fooling around. And the direct drive has a base frame that goes around where the cabinet really sits, okay? That's the main difference. But, you know, the video doesn't do this justice, guys. You got to see this in person just to see how serious these parts look. It's really nice. The suspension springs have a little bit of blue paint on them. I guess that's just to indicate what the tension is or what their strength is. And for both machines too as well, like I said, they're supported from the bottom end. If you look carefully at the suspension springs here, you may notice that they're greased up where the springs connect to the outer tub and where the springs connect to the bottom base there. In this case for the Speed Queen, the direct drive has a different suspension system right here. So those both connect to the base frame right there, okay? And they are all greased up. So whenever this tub is moving back and forth during agitation or, you know, shaking during a spin, there is no metal-on-metal contact there for when that thing does that. And that is a really, really smart design, and I really like how they did that for both machines. Very smart idea, very good quality work right there. Now let's look at the drive mechanisms for this machine. This particular machine, it's like the direct drive in the sense that the motor, it's just one motor, operates the transmission. Let me see if I can show that to you. The transmission right there, where's my finger at? There it is, sorry. The transmission is right inside there, you can see. And here's the drain pump. And just like the direct drive, the motor operates both of those at the same time. The biggest difference, of course, on this machine is that on the Speed Queen, the transmission is belt driven, as you can see right there. A similar thing for though is that the pump is actually directly driven. And this little spring you see right here with this little thing right here, this is a tensioner pulley for the belt, okay? And the interesting thing about this machine is that when the tub is not up to full speed yet, as you know, it still drains fully. This belt actually slips on the motor pulley before the tub is up to speed. And it's completely designed to do that, but I just find that very interesting because, you know, there's going to be a lot of friction involved with that when the belt isn't going full speed yet, but the motor pulley is. So that belt's going to get pretty hot for operation, but again, it's designed to do that, so I don't know exactly how they do it, but they do it, and I think it's just amazing as to how it all go about. And the tensioner pulley here kind of compensates for that when it's going in there. And what I like about this setup too is that, let's say if down the road the belt breaks, your pump will still work. Kind of like the direct drive. If the motor coupling breaks, the drain pump is on the opposite side of the motor, so it'll still run. So even if your machine can't do any agitation or spin, as long as the drain pump is connected, it will still drain the water. That makes it a lot easier for you. So there's a good benefit for both machines. And the motor is right here on the front, like both machines, which is really nice. The start capacitor is right here. And you can see, for the most part, everything you need, minor things, I guess you could say, is right there and accessible for you. And you can see the drain hoses right there that go to the drain pump. And yeah, so definitely for both machines, all those things mentioned before is a good plus for both of them. So now that you know how the belt works when the tub's not up to full speed yet, obviously the Whirlpool direct drive doesn't have a belt. So the way that it actually does that is it has what's called a spin clutch. On the top of the Whirlpool direct drive's transmission, the spin clutch sits on there. And what it does is it has an outer drum that will spin the speed of whatever the motor is giving it, and then there's an inner band with some pads inside, kind of like a drum brake almost, where as that drum goes, where that drum is up to full speed, the inner pads will start to pick up speed with that drum and the tub as well. So that's kind of like how the Whirlpool direct drive gets a give when there's no belt on it. So basically, the belt itself on this machine and the motor pulley kind of act like the spin clutch. There's just a different mechanism behind it. So it's really kind of cool how it's designed, and I'm just amazed that a belt can handle all that friction and heat, because I'm sure that thing definitely gets heated up while it goes on. But again, that's another pro for both machines when it comes to letting things get up to speed without breaking anything when the tub is still full of water or when the clothes are still fully wet before they start to get spun out. Okay, now we're over here to the dryer, and I can definitely give some comparisons here. Now as you can see, the Speed Queen dryer has the lint filter directly at the door towards the bottom, and most dryers do. The Whirlpool one has the lint filter at the top of the dryer, as you know. So one pro you may think of for the Whirlpool is that this is much more open, because there's no duct right here. And in a way it is. You have much better access to the motor and tensioner pulley, you can see, which is right back there. And on this one, it's a little bit more involved to get that motor, to get that pulley and belt replaced should you have to in the future. But there is definitely a lot of pros in this design for the Speed Queen. The burner is just about this, let me rephrase that. The burner is a lot closer up on the Speed Queen, so if you have to replace stuff such as the gas valve coils, the hot service igniter, they're a little bit easier to get to. The Whirlpool dryer really isn't all that bad, but it's definitely in a little bit more, but it is more open here. And if you notice right there, I don't know what that is. That could either be a thermistor for the auto sensing cycles, it could be the cycling thermostat, it could be a thermal fuse. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but on this particular machine, it is much, much easier to get to this on the Speed Queen than it is on the Whirlpool dryer, because on the Whirlpool dryer, everything is towards the back. And in order to access that stuff in the back, depending on where your machine is located, you're going to have to pull the machine out and take the panel off in the back to access it. Whereas on this machine, you can see right here, it's right here on the front. And in fact, right here is the blower wheel. So that is also much easier to access compared to the Whirlpool dryer, because, again, on the Whirlpool dryer, it's all the way towards the back. Because remember, the lint filter goes through the top and to the back, and that's usually where your blower wheel is located. In regards to the drive mechanisms, it's about the same. The blower wheel is directly driven, the tumbler drum is belt driven, and that's the same for both this and the Whirlpool, so there's really no comparisons right there. But again, even with this big duct right here, there is still some pros in regards to accessibility regarding the Speed Queen dryer compared to the Whirlpool dryer. So again, I think Speed Queen has a little bit more pros here, but again, that also depends on, again, what you're replacing, whether it be something for the burner, or something or like a thermistor or whatever, or fuse, whatever that part is. But again, this is a gas dryer. I think in the electric dryer, the coil is going to be in the back duct here. So that's one thing the gas dryer has over the electric dryer, is that all the heating parts are right here, whereas the electric dryer is probably back inside. So you're going to have to pull that out in regards to that. And another benefit, I guess you could say, of the Speed Queen dryer is, let me just open the door here. When you empty out the lint thing right here, you just take this out, scoop it out, and put it back into the trash there. I did like on the Whirlpool where you don't really have to bend down to get to the lint filter. You just open the thing, pull it out, and it's right there. But I mean, I think one of the benefits of this setup is that you don't have to worry about getting lint all over the top of the dryer. So it stays a little bit cleaner in that regard. Just as a side note, I guess Speed Queen had gone back to, at one point they made this white and this white, and I was kind of upset when I saw that. But when I saw when I saw Spats Bear and Holly Badger's dryer, I saw they changed this to white, and I was like, oh, that's too bad, because the one that my brother and sister-in-law have is gray. But then when we got this, I was very excited to see this is apparently gray again, and this is gray again. So I was like, that's awesome, because I think it looks a little bit cooler having a little bit of gray in there instead of just being all white. The only thing that's still white in this dryer are the baffles. In my brother's dryer, the baffles are gray, but we got the white baffles. But, with this being gray, I think that looks cool. Just a little side note there. So, so there's your comparisons for the Whirlpool and Speed Queen dryer regarding the accessibility down here and the lead filter and all that stuff. And basically, guys, I think that pretty much covers all of it. Well, the only thing I do wish Speed Queen did have was that Whirlpool dryers do have, is I do like the hamper door. And the hamper door is like, where you pull the door here and it folds down instead of having it open it to the side. But they do give you a nice amount of clearance here, so I probably can put a laundry basket under here, open the door, and then just get all the laundry into the basket, and then so that way nothing goes onto the floor. Because that's one of the advantages of the hamper door, was that it was harder to get laundry from the dryer onto your floor, whereas the sideways doors was maybe a little bit easier. But if you can put the laundry basket down here, it probably makes up for it. So it probably really isn't all that bad. Anyway, guys, the reality is both machines do a great job. I think both of them are very good machines, but some of them have some advantages of one over the other. And I just thought maybe I kind of point it out and kind of give my opinions on that, like I did with the electronic controls. Okay. So anyway, guys, there you have it. There's my personal Speed Queen and Whirlpool direct drive comparisons. Hope it was an interesting video, and I hopefully made some good points for you, and hope it was entertaining for you. So as usual, guys, thank you very much for watching, and take care.